The Tales of Mitch, Chapter 18, All Night with Cassie Belier. August 11th, 1987, 9:15 p.m.
Suck that chicken butt!
Mitch shouted enthusiastically as he stomped yet another enemy on his Atari 2600 game, Joust. Around March, Mitch's father decided to move, once again, from the trailer they lived in, and Mitch now had a big enough room in this house near Chico's bar to use his old TV and Atari. In fact, this would be one of Mitch's favorite homes he would ever live in, and this room was big enough to hold all of his things, including his new antique throne-like chair he would adore for years to come. Mitch found himself strangely addicted to this game now that he had a high score to beat, set by one of his new friends, Randy, no less. Mitch had found that flying around backwards added a level of excitement to the game, as he could literally kill enemies with the butt of what looked like his flying chicken. Mitch would often switch back and forth from watching TV to playing his Atari, depending on what was on his black and white TV at the time. Mitch had just finished watching a rerun of one of his favorite shows, Moonlighting, and wasn't interested in watching the following Spencer for Hire episode, which was also a rerun he had seen before. Unlike Moonlighting, which had David saying,
"I want to know! I want to know!"
when reading his scandal sheet, Mitch was not interested in seeing the Spencer for Hire episode, which had no funny parts in it that he wanted to see again, so back to the Atari he went. In mid-flap, Mitch found his concentration interrupted by a knock on his bedroom door. "Come in!" Mitch shouted, as to be heard over the noise from his video game. As if out of another dimension, a familiar friend strolled into Mitch's room, one whose presence he never imagined would grace his home.
What's up, bruh?
Cassie said as she immediately made herself at home by plopping leisurely into the folding chair next to Mitch, who was sitting in his throne-like chair as usual. "Cassie! The f*** are you doing here?" Mitch asked in a surprised manner, with a shocked expression on his face. This would be the first time Mitch had seen Cassie outside of school since their trip to Chico's bar back in February, and certainly the first time they had seen Cassie in his home. At first, Mitch thought it was Randy, whom he expected to show up out of the blue to play Atari with him, since he lived right next door. Not to mention, Cassie lived far away, at least a 20-minute drive, and never visited him at his home, let alone in his room. As Cassie looked around Mitch's room, she quickly realized she had access to cigarettes, and the full ashtray next to the throne was a clear sign that smoking was indeed accepted in his house, just as Mitch had described to her in the past.
Give me a cigarette, Mitch.
Cassie said, totally bypassing Mitch's question as if it were never asked in the first place. "Oh yeah, wait, hang on," Mitch stuttered, as he placed his joystick down to oblige and behaved like a gracious host. Mitch quickly grabbed 2 cigarettes from his almost full pack of Marlboro 100s and lit them haphazardly. "Here, hold this," Mitch added, as he handed Cassie the second player controller of his Atari. Cassie looked at Mitch confused for a moment, but took the controller in her left hand nonetheless and grabbed one of the freshly lit cigarettes with her right.
What the f***, bruh?
Cassie asked, for she didn't have an Atari at home and had no idea how to play the game Mitch was playing. "Just flap around and kill Mitch said nonchalantly. "That way we can talk without being overheard."
Okay, cool.
Cassie acknowledged, as she quickly took a drag from her cigarette and started pressing the button on her controller. Mitch pressed the selection button on the Atari and quickly started a new 2-player game. After a few more seconds of silence, Mitch decided now was the time to reiterate his original question. "Man, Cassie, what the f*** are you doing here?" Cassie, still trying to figure out how to play the game, had completely forgotten Mitch had asked that question earlier.
Bruh, I'm hanging out with you tonight.
Cassie said with a big smile on her face. This face, strangely enough, had a significant amount of makeup on it and would include her favorite blood red lipstick. It was almost as if she was prepared to go out, just like the time Mitch had seen her on the night they went to Chico's bar. One major difference was instead of wearing one of her favorite Harley-Davidson shirts, she was wearing a blue button-down shirt with yellow and red stripes. It was worn very loosely, with enough buttons left undone to see a large amount of her breasts. With her skin-tight black jeans on as well, it would appear she was dressed to kill. "What the f***?" Mitch said in a genuine stupor. After pausing for yet another few seconds of silence, Mitch asked again, more forcefully. "Cassie, what the f*** are you doing here?" Cassie giggled briefly before finally deciding to answer.
Alright, bruh. My dad and your dad are going to some AA meeting tonight.
Cassie said with glee.
So me, bruh, and you, bruh, be here, bruh, and that would it be, bruh.
Her speech was reminiscent to cable TV style language used on their recent tape On Location 2. The initials AA was short for Alcoholics Anonymous, with which Mitch was all too familiar with, being that his father had dragged him to many such meetings. Cassie's eloquent explanation notwithstanding, Mitch still didn't get it. Listen here, broad. You don't just come in my room, sit your ass down, and smoke my cigarettes, and then don't tell me what's going on, Mitch said, faking offense.
Yes, I do. I just did.
Cassie said bluntly, still trying to master the art of chicken fighting, but failing miserably. At this point, Mitch took it upon himself to start killing Cassie in the game, both showing off his gaming skills and at the same time pissing Cassie off. Alright, bitch, I see how you want to be. You tell me what it be, but you don't tell me what it is, so you can just suck my chicken butt. Which is exactly how Mitch killed her in the game, flying backwards into her chicken, making it seem as though the butt of the chicken itself was killing her.
Oh, bruh, that's just wrong.
Cassie said in surprise.
I didn't know you could kill each other in this game. That's dick.
Yeah, well, that would it be, bitch, Mitch said, as he relentlessly killed Cassie's chicken over and over again. After repeated killings, Cassie found herself out of chickens and therefore out of the game.
Well, that sucks, donkey dicks.
Cassie replied upon realizing her game was over, adding the insulting phrase,
You know, Mitch, you're ugly and your mama dresses you funny.
a direct reference to the fact that Mitch was wearing one of his brother's hand-me-down Ocean Pacific shirts that was clearly too small for him.